Are you using LinkedIn ads? If so, you probably know that the CPCs are really high. The cost per click, it's crazy high compared to, say, Google or some other ad platforms. So today we're going to talk about some ways that we found at Upgrow here to lower the cost per click. And I am Ryder Meehan, one of the co-founders at Upgrow. To learn more about our digital marketing agency, we specialize in B2B in the tech industry especially. So you can learn more about us at upgrow.io. So let's get right into it. But before we get into the tips for lowering your cost per click, let's get a little bit of information out about LinkedIn and how it's a bit different than some other platforms, and also understanding the audience and their mindset and how they use LinkedIn. So first, understand some LinkedIn facts. If you are in the B2B space, if you are trying to reach businesses to sell your product to them, then you need to be using LinkedIn. I've got some stats here that 80% of B2B leads come from LinkedIn. So 20%, that includes all other types of B2B leads, 80% are from LinkedIn. So if you're not using it, you are definitely missing out. And it's still not as competitive as a lot of other platforms. Only 26% of companies are using LinkedIn for marketing right now. So it's still a very efficient platform, even though you are paying some higher CPCs. You probably will pay some higher CPCs after you implement our changes, but ultimately the lead quality and the volume of leads is so much better that we still find it's a great platform. So must for B2B, lower cost per lead than SEM, Google Ads, search engine marketing, Bing ads. The reason is that you're ultimately targeting exactly who you want. So you're not getting the low quality leads. You get a lot of keywords. It's very hard to use keywords to disseminate a qualified buyer versus an unqualified buyer. Where with LinkedIn, you're targeting a very specific audience. Maybe you know their job title, the company they're at. You could even be targeting a list of individuals through your ABM program that you've uploaded into LinkedIn, or retargeting, or lookalike. In some way, they're highly qualified if you're targeting them and you're using LinkedIn properly. So you will usually see a lower cost per lead. We know that we do for most of our clients. The LinkedIn user is different. So the LinkedIn user, according to our stats, only spends 17 minutes a month on the LinkedIn platform. A friend was asking me the other day if posting on LinkedIn 3 times a week is too much frequency. I told him heck no, because the average LinkedIn user, he or she is only on there 17 minutes of the month. They come in, they check the latest updates, and then they're out of there. It's not like Facebook. On Facebook, the average Facebook user is on there for over 2 hours a day versus 17 minutes a month. So definitely a very different experience. You can be a bit more aggressive on LinkedIn because you're not going to get a lot of opportunities to touch the prospect when they're only on there for such a short period of time on a monthly basis. How to cut costs on LinkedIn. I have 5 great ideas here for you. We've seen a lot of success with these. The first one is segmented retargeting. Segmented retargeting. You are probably already using retargeting. You may be retargeting everybody that visits your site. You should definitely be using the LinkedIn Pixel to set up and retarget users. But a way to get a bit more efficient and a little more advanced is to segment the retargeting. And what do I mean by that? First off, you want to focus more on your most engaged visitors. So if they've been to the site more than once, they've been 2-3 times, that's a hot prospect and they are ready to move. So you want to maybe set a higher CPC, establish more budget to market to them, and put them in a different category so that you can get a little more aggressive with them versus somebody that has only been to the site and maybe they've only been to the site like a month ago. You want a really low CPC for that user. So rather than lumping everybody into one retargeting pool and paying the same CPC for all of them, You segment it, and then you can focus your budget on the most warm and the most likely to become a lead. So definitely want to segment retargeting. Another way to segment is by industry or by job title. So maybe you have an ebook that is for the tech industry, and maybe you have an ebook for the finance industry. So when they've been to the site and based on their LinkedIn profile, you know they're in the tech industry, you start serving them the ad with the tech ebook. And then if you know they're in the finance industry, you start serving them the finance ebook. So it makes it a much more relevant ad experience and a much more likely to convert when they're getting a more relevant ad landing page and everything like that. So that's number one. Number two, LAL, lookalike, and custom audiences. Lookalike, all the platforms have it now, LinkedIn, even Google, Twitter. So you have your retargeting list, now you have the lookalike list. So these are users with similar profiles to your retargeting list or what other list you have. So lookalike is a good one for prospecting new people. I love custom audiences. When you have an email list, or if you're using a sales prospecting tool like discover.org or apollo.io, what you can do is use those tools or talk to your sales team and get their lead list, their ABM list. Take that list to prospects. You can upload them to LinkedIn and target the exact name and email of those people. It needs to be a sizable list, probably at least 1,000, so that it's anonymous, but you can reach those very specific users and get really high quality and really good engagement when you're using these custom audiences. Start with low bids. You want to start with low bids. This is a mistake I see a lot, and it's because LinkedIn encourages you to set a really high cost per click. So as you're setting up the campaign, it will give you a recommended bid, and it'll be like, $12, $15. If you start at the minimum bid, so it will force you to use a floor of like $4 or $5, $2 sometimes. If you start with that bid, I typically find that a lot of the time that's enough. That's enough. I get as much traffic as I can within my budget and I'm satisfied. If I launch and I have the really low bid and I'm not getting any clicks and I'm not using my budget, I can always increase it. So I suggest starting with the low minimum bid. So if it's $4, maybe start with like $4.05. And you can always, test and learn over the first few days. You'll find out really quickly. Switch to CPM bidding. So I still suggest starting with CPC, but once you've established performance and you're getting a good click-through rate, probably at least a 1% or better click-through rate, I suggest switching to CPM bidding. Why? Because with CPC, you've got that minimum bid. So if it's $4, even though you have a really great performance, you have a great LinkedIn quality score, there's no way to get below that minimum bid unless you switch to CPM bidding. So once you switch to CPM bidding, you can get your CPC even below that floor. So I suggest switching to it once you've established some performance and quality within the account, and you can lower that. So that's CPM. All right, next we've got segment your audience. So just like I talked about some of the ways to segment retargeting, you also want to segment your prospecting audience. So I've seen a lot of accounts like this. They just have all of the prospects in a single campaign or maybe a few campaigns, and they're all running the same ad, same landing page for all the different audiences. The more granular you can make your audience, the better performance you'll typically have, because you can make the experience highly relevant to them. So if they're in the tech industry versus the finance industry versus e-commerce, you're giving them different ads, different offers, different experiences so that it connects with them much more. So by segmenting your audience, you can deliver that better experience, and then LinkedIn will reward you with lower cost per click, and you'll also get better conversion rates. Additionally, some of your audiences are more valuable than others. So like the CEO, if he becomes a lead, that's probably more valuable to you than if the intern or the coordinator, maybe somebody that's still involved in the buying decision, becomes a lead, but they're less likely to be able to close the deal for you. So if you segment the key decision maker and you pay a little bit higher cost per click and pay a little bit lower cost per click for the influencer, you can get more for your budget that way as well. So segmentation is key on a lot of levels. And then optimize for MQL, minimum qualified lead. Not specifically MQL, it could be SQL, a sales qualified lead. But what I'm basically getting at here is don't just optimize for any old lead. You want the qualified leads that are closing and becoming booked revenue for you. So look at your Salesforce data or your HubSpot data or your CRM data and see which leads are actually becoming high quality leads that are closing with your sales team. You'll have to do a bit of a setup. At Upgrow, we do a lot of these setups, these integrations, so that we can pass the data back from Salesforce to LinkedIn and see which lead actually went all the way through. It's quite possible to do. You can use things like Google Data Studio, or there's a number of integrators that make it possible, but you will want to optimize your campaigns, your audiences, your ads, all the way down to MQL. So implement these 6 strategies. I think you'll notice a really great improvement in your cost per click. You'll also see good lift in conversion rate and a lower cost per lead overall. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like if you found this content valuable. To learn more about us, head over to upgrow.io, and thanks for watching.